Disclaimer, my Japanese pronunciation is terrible, so I'm probably going to butcher the language several times throughout this video. Enjoy. The year is 1984. It is approximately 9 p.m. on the 18th of March, and two masked men in caps have just broken into the home of Katsuhisa Izaki, the president of Glico, a confectionery company famous for its Pocky, pudding, and other candies. The men tie up his wife and kids, cut the phone lines. The men had obtained the key to the house through Izaki's mother, who lived next door, who is now bound as well. Izaki's wife pleaded with the men, offering them money for their lives, but she was rejected and they kidnapped her husband. These were clearly not simple bandits. The president was then taken to a warehouse located in Ibaraki in Osaka Prefecture. The following day, the kidnappers contacted the company director of Glico and requested 1 billion yen, around 9.3 million US dollars nowadays, and 220 pounds of gold bullion, about 4 million USD today. The ransom was never fulfilled as Izaki managed to escape 3 days later somehow. This escape infuriated the captors and the situation only escalates from here. Things are about to get very interesting. The culprits then sent a letter containing the message and information about the kidnapping. To the stupid police, it began. Are you idiots? If you were pros, you would catch us. Because you guys have such a high handicap, we're gonna give you some hints. The letter went on to give more details about the crime. The getaway car was gray. The food they purchased was from Dai's Supermarket, one of the largest chains in the country. The 10th of April, 1984, 3 cars in Glico's production facility caught fire. Several days after, a bottle of hydrochloric acid was discovered by the police in Ibaraki, with a threatening note directed at the confectionery company attached, signed, The Monster with 21 Faces. The culprit's moniker is based off a villain of Itogawa Ranpo's series, Private Detective Kogoro Akichi. The attached letter contained a new threat entirely, one greater than any of the previous ones. The letter informed Glico that the group had bought a large portion of their candies, and that they had been laced with cyanide, then redistributed to store shelves. Glico responded by hastily pulling all of their products off the shelves nationwide, leading to a loss of $21 million worth of product, which caused their stock price to plummet, and they had to lay off 450 employees. In the end, no one was hurt, as no poison candy was ever found. The monster just seemed to be toying with them. The investigation was not going anywhere, and the monster knew that. They sent letters taunting the police such as, Dear dumb police officers, don't tell a lie. All crimes begin with a lie, as we say in Japan. Don't you know that? Or, why don't you keep it to yourself? You seem to be at a loss, so why not let us help you? We'll give you a clue. We entered the factory by the front gate. The typewriter we used is pan writer. Plastic container used was a piece of street garbage. Signed, Monster with 21 Faces. The monster had requested to talk to Glico employees through a payphone from time to time, and the police would disguise themselves as workers to hopefully catch someone. However, no one ever called when they tried. In response, the monster replied in the following days. You thought you could fool us, dressed up in your nice businessmen's blue suits, acting like salarymen, they wrote the next day. But those shifty eyes gave you away. All that was clear from these letters and taunts, which were written in hiragana, was that the monster wrote with an Osaka dialect, which led to more room for humor. So now they could narrow down the suspects to just a couple million. On a side note, Osaka is historically a center of comedy in Japan. This puts the nail in the coffin that the monster was messing with them, and laughing about it too. Then on June 26th, in a letter addressed to our fans throughout Japan, the monster announced that they would lay off Glico. The president of Glico has already gone around with his head hanging down low enough, they wrote. We would like to forgive him. And there was also a few final jabs at the candy company. In our group, there's a 4-year-old kid. Every day he cries for Glico. It's a drag to make a kid cry because he's deprived of the candy he loves. And at the police have done a good job. Hang in there and don't give up. Things were far from over, however, as the monster shifted its focus to Morinaga and Company, along with the house food corporations. Then in September, they demanded $400,000 from Morinaga. Morinaga did not respond as they thought it was an empty threat due to the resolution of the Glico case and the fact that nothing was poisoned there. So in October, the newspapers were graced with another letter addressed to moms throughout Japan. In autumn, when appetites are strong, sweets are really delicious. When you think sweets, no matter what you say, it's Morinaga. We've added some special flavor. The flavor of potassium cyanide is a little bitter. It won't cause tooth decay, so buy the sweets for your kids. We've attached a notice on these bitter sweets that they contain poison. We've put 20 boxes in stores from Hakata to Tokyo. The police then scoured stores throughout the nation and found candies with a note on them. Danger, contains poison. You'll die if you eat this. The mystery man with 21 faces. When the police tested the candy, this time it actually did test positive for cyanide. Luckily, it seems people could read as no one was injured and killed. Due to this incident, Morinaga's stock price dropped as well, and then more letters started to flow in. These letters stated that if supermarkets didn't immediately begin boycotting Morinaga, future boxes would appear, this time without a label. It's gonna be like a treasure hunt. The police's response was to mobilize 40,000 officers, 1/5 of the entire country's police force, to stake out supermarkets throughout the nation. They did strike gold with security cameras, capturing a curly-haired man wearing a baseball cap, putting something on a shelf. This man was dubbed the videotaped man. However, they were unable to identify him. They also released audio from the blackmailing telephone call to Morinaga, which featured a woman and child demanding money, and even set up a special phone line so that people could call in and listen to it. However, with all these leads, none produced anything, except mockery from the monster, that is. Isn't the man in the video a splendid chap? The monster then comparing the man's appearance to certain police officers. Another failed stakeout resulted in the police finding a van containing odd, misplaced items, such as a floppy hat, a vacuum, and wire cutters. There was another lead to the suspects. In June, the monster promised to stop harassing another company, Marudai Ham, in exchange for 50 million yen. They agreed, and an undercover officer was to play the part of a Marudai employee. The officer then boarded a train and proceeded to ride to the drop point, which would be signaled with a white flag, then the money would be tossed out the window. The white flag never appeared, but the officer did notice a well-built man with sunglasses watching him, and he had, quote, eyes like a fox. The officer then pursued him from car to car in the train, but was outmaneuvered, and the man got away once reaching the station. This man, only one of 2 identified perpetrators, was dubbed the Fox-Eyed Man. The monster agreed to work with House Food Corp, and the executives planned a ransom exchange. This time, the monster asked for 100 million yen. The drop would occur at a rest stop on the Meishin Expressway in Shiga Prefecture. Officers with the local prefectural police spotted a man who they thought was a fox-eyed fellow from the previous drop. Officers attempted to apprehend the suspect, but he managed to elude them yet again. They found his vehicle, which was stolen, dumped at the Kusatsu railroad station. Inside, they found a police radio scanner which the suspect had used to monitor police activity and thus escape his would-be captors. The fox-eyed man and the videotaped man were believed to be the same person, and the police released a composite sketch of the suspect, but no one came forward. Due to the sketch, however, the police believed the suspect to be Miyazaki Manabu, who had a bit of a history with Glico. He was responsible for revealing Glico's illegal dumping of industrial water into the rivers in Osaka, and whose choice of words were rather similar to the monster's when compared to a 1976 audio tape. However, every time they compared his activities to the time the crimes were committed, he always had an alibi and was cleared of all charges. I would suggest looking into him as he's had a rather interesting life, or you could just read his book Tapamono, which I quite enjoyed. The lack of leads and public pressure proved to be too much for Police Superintendent Shoji Yamamoto, who decided to self-immolate out of shame of his inability to capture the monster. His sacrifice, however, was not in vain, as the monster sent out a letter afterwards. The Yamamoto of Shiga Prefecture Police died. How stupid of him. We've got no friends or secret hiding place in Shiga. It's Yoshino or Shikata who should have died. What have they been doing for as long as 1 year and 5 months? Don't let bad guys like us get away with it. There are many more fools who want to copy us. No career Yamamoto died like a man, so we decided to give our condolence. We've decided to forget about torturing food-making companies. If anyone blackmails any of the food companies, it's not us, but someone copying us. We are bad guys. That means we've got more to do than just bullying companies. It's fun to lead a bad man's life. Monster with 21 faces. And with that, the monster was never heard from again. So now, where does that leave us today? The statute of limitations for Izaki's kidnapping ran out in 1995, and the poisoning and attempted murder charges ran out in 2000. Yet no one ever came forward. The monster just blended back in with the crowd. He's everywhere and could be anyone. I leave you with this quote from the monster himself. Who are we? Sometimes a policeman, sometimes a violent gang, sometimes a factory hand, sometimes a kidnapper. But our true identity is the mystery man with 21 faces. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. It's a rather interesting case that's been on my mind for quite a long time, and I intend to do very similar cases like this in the future. I just actually wanted to say real quick that has anybody seen Ghost in the Shell? Well, you probably saw the movie as a kid if you grew up in the 90s and watched Toonami. But in Standalone Complex, one of the television series, the main antagonist is called the Laughing Man, who, though he uses more like hacking and mind manipulation because it's not so much 80s Japan, it's everybody's cybernetic whatever, he is more or less the monster, and he's inspired by him himself. That there are many parallels within the series that I won't go into because it doesn't have anything really to do with anime this episode. That's for other videos I may never make. But it's quite interesting, and I suggest you give the series a watch because it's Mamoru Oshii and you can't really go wrong there. I hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one. Next up, the Kosovo War? I don't know.